Good morning and welcome to the Us Review. Today is Season 3, Episode 2, entitled The Heart Knows No Boundaries. How do you really know if it's true love? This topic comes straight from my Chapter 7 in my new novel entitled He Couldn't See What I Saw. It's now available at Amazon and AskCarlaDL.com. I am your host, Dr. Carla Davis Luster, also known as Ask Carla. Here is where I discuss controversial relationship topics, highlighting the male and the female perspectives when necessary. Before I go any further, I would like to give you a brief update from last week of what I talked about. To recap last week's episode, which was Season 3, Episode 1, it was the season kickoff, which I was so excited about. I talked about how baggage carried over from your upbringing can affect your behaviors in your current relationship nowadays. Let me ask you this. How do you think it can affect your relationship? Well, let me tell you. There are many behaviors that can affect your relationship, but I'll recap just a few that I spoke on last week. I'm going to, just kind of give you a brief synopsis of a few of them that I went over last week. The first being trauma that an individual may have experienced as a young child. The second point that I want to make is I recapped that sometimes individuals come into relationships with unrealistic expectations. How many times have we seen that? Due to, a lifestyle that they were used to in their prior life. They may have entered into this current relationship, with all of these expectations, the things that they want their partner to do, or they feel that their partner should, be doing or have or whatever else. And they are unwilling to let go of that history, imposing those same expectations that they had in their prior life on their mate. But here's the kicker. The person you have chosen to be with may have been raised differently and don't share those same perspectives. So that can cause a problem. There are, many ways and many things that people do, baggage that they bring into the current relationship that causes problems. There lies the controversy. I actually discussed 9 behaviors last week. So, of course, there are many more. You are free to go Google or whatever else and, do a fact check to whatever else, because that's what I do when I talk on these shows. I do research, I look at studies, and I gather the information, to know it for myself. However, if you would like to go back and watch the episode, it's housed on my YouTube page, Ask Carla, okay? Once again, as we move forward in the season, if you miss any of my lives, you can always catch my episodes housed on YouTube. My channel is Ask Carla, as you guys may know, or simply just type in Carla Davis Luster, and you should find me. Now remember, Carla is spelled with a K, not a C. If you put in a C, you may not find me. So once again, the channel is Ask Carla, or just type in Carla Davis Luster. Leave off the doctor, but just Carla Davis Luster. If you are just tuning in, this is the Us Review. I am your host, Dr. Carla Davis Luster, and this is Season 3, Episode 2, entitled The Heart Knows No Boundaries. And how do you know when it's true love? I decided to talk about love today, as you know, since tomorrow is Valentine's Day. So, as you know, this is a controversial relationship topic podcast. I talk about controversial topics. So, here's some food for thought. If you have been invited out today, February 13th, or Saturday, the 15th, without a reasonable, clear understanding of why, you might want to check your relationship status, okay? I'm just, throwing some fire out there. I'm just saying, this is a controversial relationship topic podcast, so think about it. For legal purposes, and to add this disclaimer, I do want to make clear that any of the topics that I talk about on this show is merely an opinion, okay? Please note that the information discussed on the Us Review is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional or financial or legal advice. I do recommend consulting a licensed advisor in the area of concern if you are having issues in an area. This is a podcast. We talk about controversial relationship topics and we give opinions. I give opinions. So there you have it. So let's get started on today's topic. The heart has no boundaries. My preface today is going to be taken from my new novel. He couldn't see what I saw. I am so excited about it. It's going to come from chapter 7 entitled The Heart Knows No Boundaries. How do you really know true love? If you have already purchased my novel, I'm going to start on page 87, paragraph 1, and I'm going to start at sentence 4. But before I move forward, I want to take this opportunity to kind of show off my novels or show you my novels. This is He Couldn't See What I Saw. And you might see a gray line going through here. That's because this is an author's copy. And this is my copy, how I make notes and do everything, for it. As you can see, the guy on there, absolutely handsome, right? And then the young lady on the back happens to be me. So that's that. However, if you want to start at the beginning of the series, the first novel that I wrote starting in this series was entitled The Woman's House. This is The Woman's House, and all of these books can be gotten on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, and AskCarlaDL.com, and I'll name off a few other places at the end. But this is the first one, and this one kicks off the entire series. It introduces the characters, and it does all of those things. Now, the second one, the characters, there are 4 characters. Let me say that really quickly, and I say it every week. The husband and wife, the husband has a mistress, and the wife has a mister, a paramour, which is a French term for mistress. And the second one, in my novels, I'm giving each one of the characters their own novel to kind of like give you a background on where they came from, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the second one. I'm not a homewrecker, opportunist maybe. This one is the story about the mistress of the husband. So you can get this once again on Amazon or AskCarlaDL.com. And that's the second one. He Couldn't See What I Saw is actually the third novel, and this is the paramour telling his story. Now, for fun, this is the love season. Valentine's Day is tomorrow. This is my relationship color palette assessment guide. If you want to grab a copy of this, and hopefully you will get it by today or tomorrow, this is a fun way to talk about your personality. I introduce it with colors. It triggers conversation. So this would be kind of a fun thing for you and your spouse, you and your significant other to like kind of play around with this, have some conversation, wine, whatever, and have a good time. But this is called the Relationship Color Palette Assessment Guide. Okay, so those are my novels. And so let's get back to my preface that I'm going to talk about today or read from, and that is coming from my novel, He Couldn't See What I Saw. So if you have your novel already, turn to page 87, and I'm going to just read just a glimpse of something that it says in this chapter. We knew that the attraction and the urge were definitely there. This went on over the course of about 3 months. I think that the fact that she was married, weighed on her. I, on the other hand, did not give a fuck, okay? I knew what I wanted. I wanted her. As stated in the first novel, The Woman Tells, I found myself wanting to be with this woman probably as much as she wanted to be with me. Get your copy, folks. Get your copy. So that is the preface for today. So run out and get your copies or whatever else. Get the relationship color guide. That'll be a fun way to kind of put some spice into your Valentine's Day tomorrow. But, I just wanted to throw that out there. That is my preface. Each week I do a preface. Once again, if you are just tuning in, this is the Us Review. I'm your host, Carla Davis Luster, Season 3, Episode 2, and this is entitled The Heart Knows No Boundaries. How do you know when it's really true love? Like I mentioned earlier, today I chose to talk about love because tomorrow's Valentine's Day and love is all in the air, okay? So let me ask you, how do you know when it's love? There are a numerous amount of ways you can tell. It's definitely, based off, love is definitely based off of feelings. Now, let me say this, because people get this mixed up. Please do not misconstrue infatuation with love. Basically, signs of love is feeling safe and comfortable. You start to prioritize the other person's needs, even with sometimes compromising your own. You always want to be with them. You just got this feeling. You think about them a lot. They make you feel special. And the biggest part is that they are returning the efforts. Today we're talking about love, and I'm talking about it in a positive way, and I'm talking about it that both of the parties kind of feel the same way. I'm not talking about the unbalancing where one person is in love and the other one they're chasing and they don't feel the same way. Today is all about the positiveness of love, and we're talking about two people just returning, giving and taking, and talking about how do you know that it's love, but it's on both sides that we're going to talk about. You start to feel and imagine, you're sitting up thinking about this person. You're imagining spending the rest of your life with this person because they meet your list of characteristics that you may want in a mate. And I got to say this, you may not find a person that's going to have 100%, but the things that they lack, possibly, those are things that you can deal with. You just, no one is going to probably be 100% of what you imagine or want. Needless to say, the things that they lack, you have to make sure and make up in your mind, what is some things that I can tolerate or whatever else. And if you can't, then, maybe that's not the person for you. And of course, you have an intimate and emotional connection. That's always, people put that first and foremost. It is very important and one of the parts, but, you also have that. It doesn't stop there. The energy is magnetic. Most importantly, you accept their shortcomings. That's very important too. I just talked about that. They lack some of the things that you like in a mate. However, you're accepting them, and there are things that you can't accept because you're in love. More, and I gotta say this, I'm a big advocate of dating and getting to know a person over time, because things come out over time. Mostly, in the beginning, we're doing what we do, we're putting on our best face, our best makeup, or whatever, however you want to call it. However, you've both let down your guards. The bullshit and good behavior in front is over. People are seeing you. You're truly seeing each other for who you truly are, and you're accepting, and you still like this person. You still want to be around them. Those are all things a part of, falling in love and accepting the person for who they are, and you guys growing together. So what exactly, let me go back to the infatuation piece. So what exactly is the difference between love and infatuation? My definition is, love is a deeper level of commitment. And I say commitment, okay? Infatuation, you may do what you do in the beginning and stuff like that, but soon that stuff is going to wear off. But if you're in love, there's a lot more substance to that. You have built trust, and you have an understanding of how you fit into each other's life. There's no question of what you mean to each other, what your place is, your title is known, you're not a secret. Going back to, I kicked it off with talking about the 13th and the 15th, if you got asked out on the 13th or the 15th. Okay, there are stimulating circumstances, and, you guys could both be working on the 14th. I get it. You know what I'm talking about. However, if you're a secret and they never want to bring you around and this and the other, and you got all this love, it may be a little bit one-sided. Love is a deeper, more enduring emotion, usually developing and lasting over time. Infatuation is usually very intense, very for a moment, and based on idolized perceptions that will fade kind of quickly, and more quickly than a lingering feeling and stuff like that it's love. So let me say this: how do you know if you are in love? Let's revisit some of the points that I already mentioned in the beginning, and I'm going to mention a couple others, okay? But let's go back. Number one, let's start here. You start to prioritize your time. You start finding ways to spend time with the person, and sometimes neglecting your obligations in the interim. Meaning that, you may have something very important, and maybe you guys are both, you working these, have these careers working, or whatever the situation may be, that you guys are not able to spend time together. But anytime that you can get to be with this person, you are there, you are in, and you are like rescheduling scheduling and everything else just to be with this person. And this is just a simple example. I'm sure everyone could, figure out even more examples or whatever else, but these are just brief points that you want to take a look at to know how do you know if it's true love. Number 2, you feel comfortable and safe with them. You can be yourself. The fronting is over. Not to say that you won't still do things and act a way that's respectable. It's funny because I do a lot of interviewing with couples. I do individuals, couples, whatever, just talking to people about relationships. And I want to say that this one couple, well, the female, they were older, much older, and she still was really shy about her husband actually seeing her or she passing gas. I'm like, I know that's funny, but the beauty in it is that she wants to still, after years upon years of marriage and later, want to be respected. And that was her big, thing that she just didn't, want him to see or whatever. Now, I'm sure it's happened over the years. I think they were together like maybe 37 years or something like that. But that was one of the things. You find ways, you want to be respectable. You want to be, that apple in their eye. Number 3, you often imagine what it would be like to be their spouse, their husband or wife. And this is, a couple that's together that hasn't gotten married, yet. And maybe you guys are talking about your future. You can see having children with them. The entire domestic environment is a thought for you guys being together. Number 4, you guys respect and support each other. You genuinely care about their well-being. They care about yours. Each one of you care about each other's success, which is very important. Once again, it's not one-sided. Sometimes more than you care about their stuff more than you do yourself. Now, I always talk about self-love and keeping yourself, together, whatever else, because you have to work on yourself in order to be, good for someone else. You don't want to just totally lose yourself. I think couples get into a problem there where you get into that relationship and one is just, all about the other person. He or she is all about what they're doing and you're just all working on their stuff. And then you wake up one day and it's like, what about me? What about me? So you don't want to do that. You don't want to lose totally yourself. You want to keep, your identity, keep some things. You guys talk about it, but it's very important that you do that. You become selfless when it comes to the other person. Number 5, you have a deep emotional connection. You have that intimacy, as well as, that emotional connection. You definitely want the intimacy to be great and good and whatever else, but that is not the most important thing. There are a lot of moving parts that you need to make sure are connecting. You share things with them that you would not necessarily share with other people, and that's a great bond. That's a great thing. You got that person that you can confide in, the person that listens to you, and vice versa. They're doing the same thing. Once again, I'm talking about today that you guys are both in this together. It's not one-sided. That's a whole nother podcast, of what happens there. But needless to say, you guys are, returning the favor. Number 6, actions speak louder than words. How many times people are telling you things, and it's not just the woman, it's not just the man, they're telling you things and nothing they say you seem to see. You see, with you guys being in love and it's a mutual thing, you see the effort and the level of commitment through their actions. It's not just lip service. So you want to watch that as well. Number 7, sometimes depending on who you are, you may feel a little jealousy of others, that's in their life because you want all their attention. You want to watch that too. A little jealousy or whatever else, knowing, oh, he's jealous or she's jealous, that they're feeling something. If it's someone that's like, I could give a flying, whatever, and, they just kind of blowing it off or whatever. Not to say that jealousy is required in a relationship. Not at all. Not at all. Needless to say, that is showing an emotion that you have that kind of an attachment. So it has its place, but be careful. It has its place, but be careful. Number 8, you feel a sense of commitment. like I said, you respect their boundaries and you are willing to work through challenges and disagreements. You want to have an understanding of how to work through difficulties, meaning that, the first thing that happened, you're not, well, you don't just throw in the towel. You're willing to work on this because you feel for this person, you see a future or whatever else. You are, you want to learn how to work through your difficulties and how you iron out problems because, if you're together a long time and sometimes in the beginning you have issues, you want to know how to work through those things if that's the relationship you want to be in. You don't want to just, be afraid that this person is going to throw in the towel. You're both willing and committed to the process. You are not quick, once again, to throw in the towel because the relationship is important to you. Number 9, you care about how they feel about things that you do. Both of you care about each other. You care about their opinion. You don't just run off and do something. Now there are some things that you may make a decision to do, whatever, and it's not really a major deal. However, things that that are important and whatever else, you care about how they feel. It's not just whatever, I'm gonna do it anyway. It's it's a couple decision, and you are concerned with that. Now here's one that has been a controversy. I've heard it since younger years or whatever else that people argue about and people go back and forth. They spend holidays with you. You meet the important people that in their lives and to them, and you're not scheduled to spend Valentine's Day with them today or the 15th. I'm being funny, but I'm not being funny. Think about it. The important times, if they got an excuse every holiday, unless they work, there are some jobs that require you to work on the holiday, and if your person is that person that has that, then that's a little bit different, and you got to think about your scenario. Your situation. However, if it's some stuff in the game or whatever else, you want to once again go back and check. What are you? What do you mean to them? They should be spending the important times with you. If that's something that if you guys don't care about it and that's your relationship, then that's what it is. Once again, this is an opinion, but holidays is something that people like to spend together. I mentioned this once again jokingly in my opening, but you want to think about it. This year could be special due to how it's falling on the weekend, and you may work on Friday. You may not want to, come home, get dressed, go out, whatever else, and you schedule for the 15th or tonight or whatever. I'm being funny, but once again, think about it. However, your situation. And last but not least, this is one of my favorite. You still get those butterflies over time after it's been a while. It isn't that infatuation, you see this person, him or her, he's so handsome, she's so cute or whatever else, and you are and then over time it wears off. Years later, you can look at that person, still be attracted, and they turn you on. They are beautiful in your eyes. And I like to say, my husband always say, his favorite saying is, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. How many times do you see couples and, in your eyes, they look a little bit, mixed up, whatever. How is he with her or how is she with him? Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, and apparently they find something very attractive, and they are, they want that person, and it's their choice to do. So once again, keep that in mind. It's not your choice. It's, individual's choice. So with that said, let's talk about some statistics, which are good. I always like to do that. According to statistics, 72% of adults are in a romantic relationship. And these statistics are from, the United States or whatever, our country. 72% of the adults that are in the country are in romantic relationships, so that's cool. 61% of those individuals in that relationship say that they are in a relationship with their best friend. How amazing is that? To be, you got the love part, you got the friend part or whatever. That's great. So 61% of that 72% of Americans that are in romantic relationships are saying that their person is their best friend. That's so dope. That's dope, okay? A study was conducted prior, now this is a little bit different. A study was conducted prior to COVID, and 94% of Americans do believe in true love. I gotta say, tell you a really quick story. During COVID, I was one of those, exception workers, UPS store. We kept it open. The hours got cut. I don't think we were open on weekends. I'm trying to remember. We were open during the week, Monday through Friday. maybe 11 to 4. And I was blessed because you have to take your staff all the way down because you can't afford it, because sales is, a lot of businesses went, out of business because of what was going on. I was fortunate to be able to still work. However, I couldn't have the staff that I did. The young lady that I did allow to continue to work on, she lived right upstairs. It was no big, deal. Everybody was in the house. And here's the kicker: everybody was in the house with their spouse, spending a lot of time. Normally you go to work, and you have those hours where you're, I don't want to say separated, but you're separated, you're doing other things, and you're able to come home, and that's the situation. But you got to spend all this time, like I said, that time piece, really, really spending time with this person, seeing their personality, revisiting their habits. However, what point am I getting at? After we were able to come outside from COVID, everybody, you would not believe, because I'm a notary as well, how many people, how many divorce papers I notarized after that. It was insane. I was like, oh my God, I guess people got to really spend time with people, and they, I find that I really don't like you. It was insane. And when I went to the franchise meeting, I was talking to some of the other franchisees, and I mentioned it. We were laughing and talking, and I brought that up. They were like, oh my God, I had the same thing. So, that time piece, man, and that together piece, so that's an interesting statistic that I ran across, and I said, let me tell them this story. Moving right along, statistics say that 30% of couples meet online. I am not an advocate of that at all. Once again, this is a show. It's my opinion. You have yours, and it's pretty interesting. However, in June of 2024, just recently, research was done to find the top 10 dating apps. Okay, these are the top 10. And I bet some of you are like, okay, what are they? What are they? Any of you who are interested in that? I guess you could Google it, but I am going to tell you, I'm not going to be mean. But me being me, I will tell you. However, I have a t-shirt that's on sale right now on my website, Me Doing Me, at AskCarlaDL.com. Get that, whatever you're doing, me doing me, you can, rock that or whatever else. However, okay, back to the top 10 dating apps. They are, and this is in order: Bumble, Tinder, Hinge, Meet Me, Highly, or whatever that is. And here's my favorite name, one of the favorite names of it: Plenty of Fish. I'm like, okay, that's getting to the point telling people, hey, there's plenty of fish, and there's a lot of people, I don't know, I'm just being funny. Tammy, Riz, Grinder Gay, and Sweet Meat. That was another. I'm like, Sweet Meat. I'm not sure. If I was going to go online to date, that's probably not the one that I would go on, and I don't want to diss or whatever else. You do what you do, but Sweet Meat is one. Those are the top 10 dating sites. I guess, people visit looking for love. This is love, the love season. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Love is in the air. Those are the top 10, and I thought I would give them to you for those of you who are interested in online dating. However, I want to say this: be careful, okay? Because there is a statistic out there concerning individuals, and I shared it in one of my previous episodes in the other seasons, that have been scammed through these sites as well. There are married people even out on these sites, and they said about 25% are married, and they're just fooling people. You don't want to get catfish or whatever else. Just be careful. If your preference is to date online, that's your preference. Just be careful. Those are the top 10, and I gave them to you. The last statistics that I'm going to give you is a few more, believe it or not. 88% of Americans actually marry for love. I can't, that is great. 88%. I hear, so many horror stories. I would have thought that number would have been lower. However, 88% actually marry for love. So that 12% that's out there marrying for other reasons, that's lower than what I thought. 61% of women and men say they want to actually get married. So people that are around that are single and are not married, 61% of those, 100%, there's 100% of that category, 61% of those people are saying that they actually want to get married. So there is hope. There are people out there wanting to get married. You just want to make sure that you make the right choice. Now, here's a concern that I have. I'm on social media due to, I sell books and stuff like that. And, I do things, so I am on certain social media, and I scroll and I see things. I'm looking for content or whatever else. Here's a concern. I'm a woman, and I'm not to say that men don't do this, but I see a lot of women out there. This year I'm gonna get married. I'm gonna find that person. I'm gonna You could be a very beautiful woman. Let me say this: have all your stuff in line. You're good looking, but you're coming across as desperate. So you want to watch how you present yourself out there. You're out there, I'm going to find them, maybe sometimes if you just like go with the flow or whatever, you take care of yourself and make sure your things are in line. When it's your time, it's your time. And if it's not, you're out there doing that, you don't want to run into the wrong thing. Like I said, be careful on the online dating apps. You could run into some creep or whatever. And just out there, you don't want to be inviting unworthy people to pursue you. You get into something, because people actually put up a good front, like I said, and you run into some issues. So, you do what you do. You're grown, you're adult, but I'm, just a word of advice. This is my opinion. That's what it is. Being in love, it can relieve pain. That is the statistic I have read up on that. It can relieve pain because you're happier. You're doing things. You got this person, and that's great. However, you want to make sure that you're doing that correctly. And being in love, they said it relieves pain because, it may relieve stress. There are a lot of things that contribute to stress or whatever else. So I kind of believe that statistic. Now, here's one that really bothers me, and all of us have been young before. It says 19% of teens are in a romantic relationship. What the hell does that mean? What is the romantic piece of a teen being in a romantic relationship? You didn't go to movies or whatever else, but hey, we got to think about it. And as parents, we don't want to be so stiff where you don't do this, don't do that, because they're going to do what they, do, because they're not with you 100% of the time. You want to have that open door where you can have open conversations and stuff like that, so you can give them, appropriate guidance on how to handle things and what to do, whatever else in situations. I was definitely very clear and upfront of my children. I am a mother of 2 biologically, and I have 3 stepchildren. Needless to say, I had the situation where I have an open, door policy. I'll talk to you, but be ready to understand. I am going to, at the end of the day, I'm your mother. I am going to tell you and try to guide you in the right way. So that statistic kind of bothered me. So, I'm going to move right on. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. You parent the way you parent. And I parent the way I parent, but just be careful. I just didn't like it. 19% they're in a what is a romantic relationship for, teens, needless to say. Now here's one. Men are 5% more certain when they are in love. Interesting. I do believe that one because I think women, we're more apt to be, we're into the emotion. They're more into the physical, whatever else. So when they fall in love, they're saying that they're more certain when they do. It's not to say that we're not certain or anything. It can go both ways, and they're just a percentage. I'm just speaking to this today. And they are least likely to leave their mate. The woman tells, read through this, what's happening. They're doing their due. But at the end of the day, well, where will they wind up? You got to read to find out. Okay, so that's 62% of men as compared to 57% of women that takes into consideration. 81% of men find their mate attractive as opposed to women are at a much lower percentage, because supposedly according to statistics, we marry for more different reasons than love than opposed to men, and that is a statistic. You can look it up, get your own information, but that's what it's saying, because they are more likely to marry, they say that we're more likely to marry for other reasons, security being one of the largest, okay? Falling in love, once again, is slower for a woman. This is one that I kind of differed on. I didn't totally agree with that one, needless, because I think we fall in love quicker, but they took a survey, and that's what happened. They thought it, that was what it is. Statistics state being in love or in a relationship can have a positive effect on your personality. I believe that, because you're happy once again, just that, the statement that I just talked about being in love can ease your, it's painless or whatever. You don't have as much pain, and it affects your personality because you're more happier. However, there is a flip side to that because, I'm not sure about that totally because I done seen some mean ass married couples and it looked like, they may not be happy. Maybe the sex is bad. I don't know what it is, but everything is a depend. So keep in mind, whatever statistic or whatever, something is being said, keep in mind there is always a flip side to that. Now this statistic statement is one that I do not agree with again, and this is talking about a long distance relationship. They have more satisfaction and trust. I can speak to this because in my earlier years, maybe early 20s or whatever else, I was in a long distance relationship, and I guess you have a lot of thoughts. Satisfaction wise, I don't think that that's satisfying because you're not with that person. Depending on how often you get to see each other, satisfaction would be that you're seeing each other, you're doing things, you can always, you got something coming up, they're with you, whatever. So I kind of question that. And the trust, do you think about, okay, what are they doing when they're not with me? So that's questionable. I'd like to, when I sit back and think about some of these statistics, I like to know who's taking these surveys. I said to myself, I need to do a survey who's taking surveys, right? Okay, last one. Here's the whopper. 97% of people who marry their first love is convinced that they will be together until they die. What do you guys think? Think about it. I'll give you a second. However, here's the answer. Statistics show that a huge percentage of them do stay together. That's dope, because I would have said, they ain't staying together because they're too young, or if they got together young, they didn't sow their oats or whatever else, but it says that they stay together. So that is one great thing. It's amazing. You find that first love and you just live the rest of your life out. You guys build a future. That's great. So on that positive note, what is love? Let's define love. Love is a very complex emotion that people express in many, many ways. Through their love languages, you express it in so many different ways. Society states that there's 5 of them. But love languages is your own unique vehicle of pouring and sharing happiness with that person that you care about. For those who are in love or have been in love, we all know falling in love can give you a host of emotional experiences, being up, down, whatever. However, I want to say that hopefully, in a nutshell, with all of that, grouped together, that it's a great thing. So today we are focused on the positive piece of it. How do you know that it's true love? I've given you a few pointers for you to go back and look at, think about it, or whatever else. Well, here's a big one. The way you know is because their actions will show and tell you. Their actions match what they say. It isn't that they're saying one thing and they're doing another. Because once again, today's show, the heart knows no boundaries. This is the Us Review, Season 3, Episode 2, The Heart Knows No Boundaries, is what I talked about today. I am your host, Dr. Carla Davis-Luster. You can follow me across the platforms at Ask Carla. You can purchase my novels at Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, at AskCarlaDL.com, and at the Volumes Bookstore at 900 North Michigan Avenue on the 5th floor in the Bloomingdale's building. And I will have some other information coming up in the future. I will be back on February 27th with Season 3, Episode 3, and that is entitled Life's Encounters Always Work Out. Outside Baggage. What is that about, right? I'm excited about this new novel. He couldn't see what I saw. My book signing is on Saturday, March 8th, 4 to 7 p.m. There's no admission, free hors d'oeuvres, free non-alcoholic beverages. Let me stress that. I will have a cashless bookstore where you can purchase all of my books, where all of them will be there and you will be able to get them. The new KKZT collection of t-shirts, Me Doing Me, Love You, Trust Few, and another one will be there where you can purchase that. And if you have, and if you just gotta have a sip of something stronger than that soda or water that I'm gonna give you for free, then we will have a cashless bar where you can purchase, I will have a signature drink there. It's entitled Ask Carla. You're gonna have the Ask Carla signature drink at my book signing. me. So I'm going to say this. Watch my website or social media for more details. Once again, I'm Dr. Carla Davis Luster. I really, really enjoy this time talking to you about different subjects or whatever else. If there is a subject that you'd like for me to talk about, just DM me on my IG. You can, send it to my email. Once again, at Ask Carla. I thank you for tuning in. Once again, I'm Dr. Carla Davis Luster, and I look forward to seeing you on the 27th of February. Goodbye. Take care.